Thank you, Madam Chairperson. My perspective is that of a practitioner. I was involved in implementation of a statewide poverty eradication program in Andhra Pradesh, southern part of India. It was a statewide rural poverty eradication program, and the government of Andhra Pradesh believed that poverty eradication is possible by first organizing the poor, building their institutions, and enabling them to take various initiatives, and focused on women. So government of Andhra Pradesh set up a autonomous society called the Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty. And this program was supported by a loan which government of Andhra Pradesh took from World Bank, from its own funds, and from Government of India funds. Over the last 10 years, the program covers all the villages in Andhra Pradesh, and about 11 million rural poor women have been organized into their first base level affinity organization called the self-help groups. There are about 950,000 self-help groups. More than 90% of rural poor women are part of this network. And the next innovation we took in Andhra Pradesh was to federate these groups, first at the village level, and then at the next higher level, that is the sub-district level, and finally at the district level. By federating them, they were able to acquire capacities to manage these initiatives themselves. The self-help groups are basically thrift and credit groups, and they come together, they have their regular meetings where they not only address issues of consumption smoothing and investment requirements of their members, but also a variety of social issues get discussed here. So over a period of time, these groups become very strong groups for collective action. And they raise issues which are of relevant to the members and work towards finding solutions. So the support that the Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty gives through its trained professionals is the skill building, capacity building of the members of self-help groups. In this program over the last 10 years, about $500 million, about 2,300 crores, was invested in capacity building. So that's where I support what Charlotte said, that we often underestimate the requirement of capacity building, skill upgradation of the grassroots functionaries and also higher order functionaries. And this investment in capacity building is first how they manage their own affairs and also how they take up livelihoods issues such as agriculture, health, how do they link with various government programs. So the best way of convergence, best way of bringing all line ministries together is make them accountable to the communities. So that various silos dissolve when they have to work with communities. And that has been our experience. So SERP invested both in the communities and also in the line ministries to forge this kind of a collaboration. So they collaborate at the level of the institutions of the women. And that gave tremendous synergy. In this presentation, I would like to focus on the intervention of the village level federations of SHGs in tackling malnutrition among women and children in a very comprehensive manner. And in fact, the people who are leading this initiative, 3 of them are already here. So they were invited by IFPRI to, can you just get up? So they're part of the knowledge fair, and they are basically my inspiration. Thank you. So a village level federation basically represents close to 150 to 400 families. And the key intervention here was to set up a nutrition center for pregnant women, lactating mothers, and children below 2 years, and later on extended to children below 5 years. And in this nutrition center, they get 3 hot cooked meals, which is, nutritionally balanced, 2,800 kilocalories per day. And if you compare the difference in intake at the center and at home in terms of rice and millets, get about 400 grams per day versus 300 grams at home. Most important is about intake of about 300 grams of vegetables, including green leafy vegetables, fresh vegetables, versus perhaps around 50 grams at home. And this is something which the center functions every day. So a pregnant woman enters the center, comes to the center at the end of first trimester, and has this nutrition support till delivery. And the lactating mother, she comes to the center for about 1 year. This center also acts as a center for providing health and nutrition education. This also becomes a center for antenatal care, for the health department, and for immunization of the children. So having this center, having women and children coming here regularly, has optimized the functioning of the health ministry and of the other line ministries. Now, the critical innovation here was that nutrition was developed as a microcredit product. So the project provides about 300,000 rupees as a grant to the village level federation, and they recover the money from the members through easy installments. Because the cost of this nutritious diet is somewhere around 30 to 40 rupees per day. The government's own supplementary nutrition program provides only 5 rupees per day. That is the flagship ICDS program. So, but comprehensive nutrition requires this. So the innovation was that the women can pay this money in easy installments. The second innovation that was made was to make, through income generation initiative, to reduce the loan burden on the women. So when they come to the center, they're also involved in some income generation activities, and that has reduced their loan burden, made the operations more sustainable. This intervention led to a number of policy changes. The ICDS, the Women and Child Department, decided that they would provide their money to the village level federation to reduce the burden on women. The National Rural Health Mission of Ministry of Health recognized this as a best practice, and they are funding this program. And the Department of Agriculture supported this through providing this vegetable seeds as a support. So, as I said, investing in organizations of women enables variety of departments to come together. The scaling up is again very important. So scaling up here is done by the women themselves. So these heroes that you are seeing here, they are the community best practitioners. They go to other villages to take these messages there. They enable other villages to set up these centers, and the management is done by the federations of women. So we started with just 2 centers in 2004-05, and this year we'll be reaching 2,000 centers. And by 2012, we'll be touching about 4,000 centers, which will mean about 10% of villages. And I expect that should be the tipping point. Now, what have been the impacts of this? The most important, most critical impacts has been a very rapid decline in the IMR rates. This is out of 7,000 deliveries. So the IMR rates have dropped from 53 per thousand to 20 per thousand. Even though we are behind China, but this is a very fast decline in IMR rates. And what is most heartening for me is there are more girl children than boys. I don't know how it happened. So we had 52% girls and 48% boys. The average weight gain of pregnant women was about 9 kgs. And average childbirth was around 2.9 kgs. These are all very positive indicators, and again, very positive behavior change in terms of colostrum feeding, exclusive breastfeeding. There was one more intervention which SCRP took up simultaneously, and that was to make agriculture profitable for small farmers. And that was through sustainable agriculture, reducing the cost of cultivation, eliminating use of chemical pesticides, reducing the use of chemical fertilizers, and through polycropping, through multi-layered farming, we brought down the cost of cultivation for the farmers. So in these villages, since the demand for vegetables, demand for millets has gone up, so it's also made agriculture change in response to the changes in the eating habits. So I support Charlotte when she says that we need a paradigm shift, nutrition and health driving agriculture. And the Sustainable Agriculture Initiative of SARP now covers 1 million farmers. It's about 12% of the state's cultivable area. So therefore, in my opinion, I fully support the need for a paradigm shift and I believe that good nutrition also will fix agriculture. Because good nutrition means you must have variety of crops grown. You can't focus on one commercial crop. And by doing this, and by practicing sustainable agriculture, you're also ensuring that soil health is good. You're ensuring that this kind of agriculture is also resilient to climate change. So I'm not talking about win-win for today. I'm also talking about win-win for tomorrow. So I think they're very important lessons for health and nutrition on the one hand, and also for sustainable agriculture on the other hand. I think in conclusion, basically what we have done is invest in the poor, invest in building their institutions, and my strong belief is that sustainable solutions can emerge only when people themselves develop these solutions, own them, and manage them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar. And I don't want to advertise these if we don't have any more, but just to note that there is a fabulous resource that goes through the program approach, as well as some of the impacts that you highlighted as well. I have to say, when we put together this panel, it was so diverse that was a little bit nerve-wracking, and I thought to myself, how am I possibly going to pull together all of the examples from such a diverse set of panelists? And I think it actually turned out quite well. I think everyone has highlighted a very different type of approach, a very different type of program from a very different viewpoint. But I think what is abundantly clear is very much that the power of the community in nutrition is not just as a beneficiary or a target population, but really very much is at the heart of changing culture and changing the way we look at nutrition. And just to emphasize, I think, points that have been raised in very different aspects all along, but communities really here are not just beneficiaries, but they are actually the change agents that are going to make the difference in improving nutrition and as you noted, Dr. Kumar, in fixing the agriculture system to make it more nutrition sensitive, to be more socially inclusive, to highlight issues around both gender and social equity that many of our panelists have raised. So with that, I also want to pat everyone on the back because I actually did not even have to cut anyone off. And we still have a good half hour for questions, which is great. I think we want to have a very two-way dialogue here. I do want to note that we have Emily Levitt, who is taking copious notes, and will also be taking over the chair for me in a few short minutes when, unfortunately, I do have to dash out. But let's thank all of our panelists again. And if people just want to raise their hands, I don't think we need mics, but we have them if we'd like them. We'll take a couple questions. If it's a broad question, let us know. If you'd like one participant or one panelist to answer, let us know. We'll take a couple questions, compile them together, and then answer as a panel. So yes, let's start right here. And can you also tell us your name and where you're from as well?
My name is Rita Bhatia. I'm from World Food Program based in the regional office in Bangkok. Thank you for very inspiring presentation. And this takes me back to the question I raised in the other session of 1,000 days. We need evidence. Evidence is here. So we were talking about we need to build more evidence, but I think So I just wanted to reiterate that issue which I raised yesterday in the 1,000 days session. So thank you to all of you bringing this positive and very innovative, and with the people you brought from India. So I really congratulate you all. I know the challenge is how do we scale it up. That's one comment I want to make. To Lisa, on the private sector, you mentioned about it. I think it's excellent because nutrition community had been really boycotted the private sector for last many years for good or bad reasons. So I'm glad that you brought that on the agenda. My only comment on that is, or a question to you is, we are still very apprehensive, including myself. I'm a public health nutritionist. Why should the private sector tell us what they want? Should we not be telling them what we want? So it usually happens the other way around because they want to sell their product. So there is always a skepticism from the beginning. And I always, coming from India, I know India is very, very skeptical about the private sector, especially the foreign private sector. How do we overcome that skepticism? Because that's important. Unless we overcome that skepticism, I think we will not go there anywhere. And I know there is a lot of potential. There is a lot of goodwill and good intention in the private sector. So that creates a lot of confusion and conflict of interest, and that hampers a lot of our commitment. If I'm taking too much of time, my last point is on the nutrition education. It's just a suggestion. We have to educate our policy maker. So instead of calling nutrition education, which people see it as you are educating the people who are not educated, maybe we call it nutrition literacy. Let's literate the people who are educated, but they are not literate in nutrition. I went to many states and I was very happy to hear Dr. Rao, but in Orissa, where the policy IS officers, they still think that nutrition is for the poor. Give them this fortified food. So I think we should also be looking at some jargons when we are talking upscaling nutrition. And my last comment is on the social. Social is also seen as charity. Let's look at investment. Saying we are investing, we are not giving a social protection, but we are investing. Because that's the connotation in a lot of countries, especially in India, Bangladesh, where there are a lot of social NGOs, but it's seen as this is a charity for the poor. But if we want to empower the poor, we have to say we are investing in the poor. And good example was from Andhra, where it's not about giving them free, but there is a contribution. So these are just some of my comments and my experience working in this region for many years. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. Should we take, so there's a lot of really good comments in there about the language and our approach to make sure that it's not seen as a handout, but a comprehensive approach, and we'll get to Lisa. Yes, okay. We'll get to Lisa on overcoming some of the skepticism around private sector. Yes, let's go over here, I think. If I can urge, just because I see a lot of hands up in the room, if we can try and keep questions to questions and very brief, that would be great.
My question is to Mr. Vijay Kumar. Sir, you had given a very rosy and positive and significant status of Andhra Pradesh utilizing the government funds and also the microfinance scheme for benefiting the lactating mothers as well as pregnant women. But the point that what is the status of hunger index of Andhra Pradesh and poverty index of Andhra Pradesh, and many farmers committed suicide in Andhra for exclusive rural indebtedness. Under such situation, you have brought a very positive situation in terms of how the microfinance and self-help group promoting the nutrition health care of the women. But the point I would like to raise, because you very categorically pointed out that every day out of 40 rupees spent on such nutritive program for pregnant mothers and lactating mothers, only 5 comes from ICDS, the rest comes from the rolling fund of the microfinance. But you have not informed in terms of the interest rate structure, which is naturally very exorbitant, how the lactating mothers and pregnant mothers who are, under the poor category, meet out such a very exorbitant rate of interest. And also the beneficiaries, you told that about 2,000 centers, but you have not mentioned that how many beneficiaries from each center got benefited out of the scheme for the past almost 6 years, 2004, 5, now almost 11. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's try and take 2 more questions, and then we'll have a round of answering and hopefully go back. Can we get that side of the room in the back row there?
Mine is a really quick question, but first I must congratulate all the 5 speakers, and I'm probably very different from everyone here. I'm a pediatrician working in child-led research and actually doing clinical pediatric practice. Each one of you have presented a different but yet similar models from your countries. My question is really quick. Each one of you must have faced one very special, unique challenge. And if you could quickly tell us about that one challenge that you have faced in implementing what you've implemented.